Hey everyone, today's lesson is going to be over cladograms and phylogenetic trees. And so our learning objective is going to be we will interpret data from cladistic analysis as represented in cladograms and phylogenetic trees. So first thing we've got to discuss is what is a cladogram or phylogenetic tree. So what it is just a branching diagram used to show evolutionary relationships among organisms. So instead of looking at any sort of anatomical or genetic relationship, we're looking at the evolutionary relationships. So this is what these cladograms look like. So what we're talking about here is what is the defining characteristic that separated an organism from their ancestor. If I were to look at these two down here, okay, these are actually the exact same cladogram, just represented in different ways. You can see that A and B are the most closely related because if you trace back A and you trace back B, this is where they cross, and this is their most recent ancestor. Okay, A and C have a common ancestor all the way back at this point. So that's why we say that these two are more closely related because they diverge from each other at a more recent point in history. So when we look at cladograms, cladograms are visual representations of evolutionary history. So these animals that are off on the right in this picture, each one of these branches is some sort of evolutionary characteristic or adaptation that was taken in order for that animal to separate from the ones before it. Each branch can be related to the steps of evolutionary history. So if we're looking at this, okay, lancelet and the leopard had a common ancestor back here. Well, what separates a leopard from a lancelet? All of these characteristics right here are separating it. So a leopard has this vertebral column, jaws, four walking legs, amniotic leg, and hair, right? So the more further back that their common ancestor was, the more characteristics there's going to be that are different between the two. When I looked at just a leopard and a turtle, well, their common ancestor was right here at this point. The only thing that separates in this cladogram a leopard from a turtle is just the presence of hair. So whatever these little markers are is the special characteristics or that step of evolutionary history that separated the two animals from each other. So think of it kind of like an evolutionary dichotomous key. So we talked about dichotomous keys as things that you can see that are observable. Well, this one is what are those evolutionary features that separate one creature from another? The less number of branches between the two species, the closer those species are to each other. Like we said, this is their most recent common ancestor, and we can see that that is significantly closer to leopard and turtle than it is between a leopard and a lancelet, which makes sense based upon the evolutionary features they possess as well. So when we look at analyzing cladograms, so let's look at this first one. What characteristic separates hagfish and perch from all other organisms on this cladogram? Well, if you look, the characteristic that separates these two would be this right here, lungs, okay? Everything that's all to the right here of this line is going to have lungs. So that means your salamander, lizard, pigeon, mouse, and chimp. These all have lungs because they're to the right. Everything to the left does not possess that characteristic. So the hagfish and perch do not have lungs. So the other question then is what common characteristics do mice and chimpanzees share? So if you look at this cladogram here, mice and chimp are all the way off to the right-hand side. So what's separating these two from all of the other animals, what these common characteristics are that they have is everything to the left. Okay, so we know that mice and chimps have fur and mammary glands, they have claws and nails, they have lungs, and they have jaws. So why is feathers not included? Well, this feathers, if you'll notice this little line here, is actually specific to the pigeon. So that is not going to apply to the mouse and chimp because they do not come off of this evolutionary line right here. They are coming off of this main one, which includes these characteristics that are present right here. So that's it for this lesson, and keep on exploring.